Well, thanks for tuning in to IPO Adda. If there are two things that are needed for a successful public issue, one, buoyant equity markets, and two, the sectoral tailwind. And I think the company that we're going to talk to today has got a mix of both currently going for it. Home First Finance Company, it's an affordable housing finance company with a pan-India presence. As the note suggests, extends loans to salaried and self-employed individuals and customers with income level less than 50,000 rupees per month. Let's get in Mr. Manoj Viswanathan. He's the CEO of the company to talk about uh, why should you as an investor look to invest in this IPO. Manoj, good having you. Thanks for joining in. Hope all is safe.
Hi, thank you very much. Pleasure to be
All
here.
right. Yeah, pleasure to have you. Manoj, tell us a bit about the company. I mean, you are arguably in the right space because affordable housing seems to be the order of the day. Tell us a bit about Home First Finance.
Sure. So we set up this company in 2010, and our ideology was that we should help customers in this segment. The low to middle income segment. In acquiring a home. And our philosophy was that we want to make their lives easy. We want to make it a paperless process. We make the experience itself good for these customers. So that is the ideology of the company. So we have kind of stuck to that. We have built out a book of about close to 3,700 crores in the last 10 years, consisting of about 44,000 customers. And so now we are headed, for an IPO, which we think is a natural, you can say, part of the journey of a company. And there are obviously a lot of benefits to listing a company. So that's how we are headed towards the IPO now. You might have seen our taglines. It says, tech in mind and service at heart. So that has always been our guiding principle, during this whole 10-year journey. So we have tried to use technology wherever possible to make the customer's experience better, to make our own processes better, to reduce costs and optimize, the various processes within the company. So that's why we say tech in mind, and service has always been at the core. So providing the best possible experience to our customers, and other stakeholders. So that's really a little bit about the company. It's a very urban-focused company. Believes that most of the affordable housing demand in the country is getting generated because people are migrating from smaller towns to larger cities and then looking for a home. Most of our activities are centered around the larger towns in the country. So the top 60, 70 cities in the country is where you will see our activities, and mostly in the industrialized states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc. So that's about the company.
It is a competitive space, no doubt, Manoj. I think some of the larger boys also are getting into affordable housing, and while your average ticket size may be about 10, 11 lakhs, there are some of the slightly higher ticket loans that you might be giving. You might be facing competition across the street. So what leads to the kind of growth that you have exhibited in the past, and how confident are you of maybe sustaining or maybe improving upon that growth, one with the increased competitive landscape, and two with the higher base that you will be at currently compared to what you were maybe say 3 years ago?
Sure, yeah. So competition, the competition is always there, and we welcome competition because it expands the. If you see, as I mentioned, we are in the largest cities in the country, and hence, there is competition from various entities. But we are in a segment which is, which has been largely underserved in the market. So most of these customers tend to struggle a bit, to get a loan from the larger lenders, and that's where we come into place. So we are able to kind of counsel them, provide them the right kind of advice, the right kind of counseling for them to avail the loan. And also, provide the right loan size for them. So, many of them would struggle with documentation, etc. So we provide the right counseling and help for them to be able to, get the loan. Because of our use of technology, we are able to also turn around the loan very fast, which is one of our key, you can say, USPs in the market. So we are able to provide the loans much faster to our customers, provide the disbursements much faster. So that gives us good word of mouth, and customers refer other customers, and that's how we are able to build our market share.
Yeah, well, it's evident from the way your AUM growth has been since at least FY18 numbers that I have. Again, the similar question, or rather an extension of my question, would the higher base that you would be at currently necessarily mean that the pace of growth could come off. That doesn't mean that the rate would be bad, but would the pace of growth come off over the course of the next 3 years compared to what you've enjoyed, or the next 5 years compared to what you have enjoyed in the past?
So if you see our growth, we have always, focused on markets, focused on our processes. The growth has been a byproduct of that. So we have not really looked at fixed a number for ourselves, saying that this is the pace at which we want to grow. So it's more of a ground up, or bottom up, you can say build up. So we know that we want to go into X number of cities. We know we want to compete so hard, or we want to, you can say disburse so much, and the growth has been a byproduct of that. So last 4 or 5 years, we have grown about 50-60% in terms of you can say growth. But yes, as the base keeps on increasing, the growth percentage will keep changing. But we are going to be expanding into a number of markets. It should be a fair degree of growth, and we are not really putting a specific number out there. But yes, it will not be very different from how we have grown in the past.
Well, and that's an impressive number then, because FY18 to FY19, I think you grew at a tremendous pace. Then the first half, if I look at your AUM, you are on track for doubling from the high number that you had in the last year as well. Are you saying that that kind of performance is sustainable?
So yeah, as I mentioned, we are not really targeting a particular figure. We have done a ground up plan in terms of the locations we want to be present. So we are present in about 60 cities now. We are expanding that to about 80 to 100 cities in the next 3 to 4 years. Our pace of growth is to be quite decent going forward as well.
Okay. A follow-up question of sorts. I heard you mention how the kind of customers that you get also are some which probably don't get the right documentation at the onset, etc., and you need to give counseling. Now, when I speak to not an exact peer, but when I speak to some people who are in a similar mode of business, or for example, people who are into rural housing, companies who are into rural housing, they kind of always tell me that don't look at our asset quality on a quarterly basis, because it could be lumpy, because people may miss payments for a quarter, but by the end of the year, they usually come back, and therefore look at it on an annual basis. Now, when I look at your annual NPAs, both GNPAs and net NPAs, they are not looking worrisome at all. But during the course of the year, do you experience lumpiness, and could that be a cause of concern as the size goes up?
No, so in our case, as I mentioned, these are genuine end users who are buying a property for their own use. Generally speaking, the default rates are low, and if you look at, the earliest indication of default is basically when customers, right? So we present the payment through a debit instruction, and some customers end up bouncing the payment. So that is the earliest indication of default. So even there, we have historically seen about an average of 10%, kind of bounce rates historically, and majority of those 10% end up paying in the same month itself. Talking about fluctuations, we don't. We look at it from a month-on-month perspective. We don't see too much fluctuation even on a month-on-month basis, or even within the quarter. And again, one of our ideologies has been that while we are dealing with this segment, we also need to kind of we have a responsibility to basically educate this segment about good repayment habits, because it will also help them to get a good credit score. So we have done a lot to actually counsel the customer. So we actually spend at least 2 to 3 hours counseling each family that how they have to do the repayment on time, etc. And as a result of which, the bounce rates have been coming down over the years. So we basically educate the customer that it is important for them to pay on the exact date that the debit instruction goes to the bank, and that will help them to build a very good credit score in the long run.
Sure.
It's a gradual process, but we have been quite successful at that, and we have kind of maintained low delinquencies.
Yeah, you have. No. So please don't misunderstand. I'm sure your process is in place. The only question that I had is nobody thought that home finance would ever see defaults, but we've seen in the last 5 years even that happening, right? And it's happened with rural finance as well, wherein the prestige issue is even more. So my question to you is, what's the risk that this carries as your size goes up and the number of customers that you cater to moves up? And What else do you consider as risks on the horizon? I mean, when I look at the numbers look okay. So you've done all that you've done well. But what are the potential risks to the business model or the numbers, say, over the next 12 to 24 months?
So, so I think the biggest test of this portfolio quality has been the pandemic itself, right? So, I think something that the world had never seen before, and at least in the initial months, there was a lot of scare in terms of how things are going to pan out. But now that we have passed through these last 9 months, and we are seeing the kind of collection efficiencies that we have reported, which is 96%, and which is very close to what it was even prior to the pandemic. That shows that the portfolio is very resilient, and customers are actually really attached to their properties. They don't want to default, and this is the actual real and final proof that this is really a resilient portfolio. And as far as your second question is concerned, the as far as
The risks on the horizon?
yeah, so risks on the horizon, I'm just trying to think through what it could be. So I think we are trying to see one of the. It's not really a risk, but it is you can say a competitive challenge from some of the digital players, right? So you can see some of the large digital players are actually even getting into lending, and they are changing the game. You can say changing the rules of the game. So that is something that we are working towards. We are ourselves investing a lot on digital technologies. So that we are able to provide a similar or better experience to our own customers, and be ahead on this whole digital race. So that is one thing that we are kind of working on.
Okay, this is, I reckon, the second offering of sorts in terms of shares being sold down either by the PE players or the promoters in the last 6 months. Would you reckon that with the current round of fundraising, because your objects of issue also says that you'll be able to gather these funds for future expansion plans, would you be adequately funded for the next couple of years or longer, or would you need to return to the capital markets for a time frame lesser than 2 years, whether it is to give an exit to any of the existing PE investors or for capital raising needs itself?
So, so if you look at our promoters, which is Ather and True North, post IPO, they will be holding about 30 to 33% of the company, right? And since they are promoters, 20% is anyway locked in, right? So which means there will be only about 12-13% that is left, even if it has to be offered in the market for the next 3 years. So we don't envisage coming back to the market very soon, at least not for a primary raise. I mean, there could be small transactions that happen, by some shareholders in the future. So we can't really visualize that. But as far as the primary is concerned, we are very clear. We are raising sufficient primary, to keep us going for probably the next few years. So we don't. We are not really looking at coming back to the market for a primary raise very quickly.
Okay. Last question, really. You have the tailwind of how the country suddenly seems to be wanting to own a home, and that should essentially feed into all ancillary businesses, including finance. You've already told us that you don't have a number for the growth rates in mind, but higher growth rates could well be envisaged. My final question is, with these kind of growth rates that you pencil in, are you comfortable with the valuations that you are coming with? Could you have opted for a slightly bigger or a better space for the investors coming in the IPO route? And what about profitability metrics? Do you reckon that you'll be able to maintain them for the next 2-3 years?
So the valuation has been arrived at with a lot of discussion with bankers and investors, etc. So I don't want to really comment on it beyond that. So as far as the profitability of the company and prospects of the company is concerned, so currently we are clocking 11% ROE, and so there is still a lot of operating leverage in the company, because currently, if you see on an average, each branch has an AUM of about 50 crores, and there is sufficient headroom for a branch to handle probably twice or thrice that kind of business. So we think there's a lot of operating leverage sitting there, which is going to kind of accrue to the bottom line in the coming years. So we are fairly bullish in terms of how the profitability of the company should pan out over the next few years.
Any targets for that ROE number? That's typically one thing that most people have in mind, 2-3 years out.
So we want to keep building on it. It has been improving over time. So right now, like I said, we are at about 11%, and we should be able to keep improving on that on a year-on-year basis.
Well, we wish you all the best for the IPO, Manoj, and for the journey ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us at Bloomberg Quick.
Thank you. Pleasure interacting with you.
Likewise. And viewers, thanks for tuning into this edition of the IPO Adda.